Picture yourself stepping onto your porch in the quiet of morning. The air is cool, the light soft, and your garden stretches before you like a patchwork quilt, stitched together with greens, blossoms, and promise. You breathe deeply, expecting to see chewed leaves or toppled stems. Yet everything stands unharmed. Not a single bug has feasted, no weeds have snuck in overnight, and even last night's rain left no scars. It almost feels like a dream, doesn't it? For many of us, the idea of a perfectly protected garden seems impossible, like chasing after youth or catching the wind. But here's the gentle truth: you don't need expensive gadgets or backbreaking effort to shield your plants. What you need is a little imagination, some resourcefulness, and maybe a short trip to Dollar Tree. Over the years, I've learned that the most valuable tools often come from the most unexpected places. A shower cap, a toy hoop, even a cooling rack, all things you'd normally pass by in a store, can become your garden's armor. It isn't about money. It's about wisdom, the kind that grows as surely as we do with each season of life. Today, I'll share with you 10 humble, affordable finds that protect your garden from storms, pests, and time itself. Think of it as building a gentle shield around the living things you've nurtured without straining your body or your wallet. So settle in with me, dear friend. Imagine a cup of tea warming your hands as birdsong filters through your window. Together, we'll explore how ordinary, inexpensive items can guard your garden and give you peace of mind. By the end, you may find yourself smiling at how beauty and protection often come from the simplest of places. Do you remember the first time you tried starting seeds indoors or out in the spring when the air was still unpredictable? Perhaps you set out tiny cups of soil with such hope, only to find a heavy rain knock them flat, or a gust of wind bent their tender stems. It can feel discouraging, as though nature itself were working against your patience. That's where something as simple as a transparent shower cap comes in. Yes, the very kind you might find tucked away in a travel kit at Dollar Tree. These little caps can be turned into personalized greenhouses, offering each seedling its own safe haven. The idea is simple but powerful. You stretch a cap gently over your seedling trays or small pots, and just like that, you've created a bubble of warmth and moisture. Think of it as tucking your young plants under a cozy quilt, protecting them from sudden chills at night, while still letting the sunlight through during the day. They guard against more than just the cold. A sudden downpour won't crush delicate sprouts under its weight, and curious pets, or even a neighborhood cat, won't dig up the soil. In fact, I've known gardeners who lost entire trays of seedlings to one playful puppy. Once they discovered the shower cap trick, those little plants had a fighting chance. There's also an ease to this method that makes it especially friendly for those of us who might not bend or kneel as easily as before. You don't need to build frames or haul heavy equipment. Just slip the cap over and let it do the work. During warmer hours, you can lift it slightly to allow fresh air in, then seal it back at dusk to keep the day's warmth trapped inside. For just $1, you've given your plants the same kind of protection that garden centers charge much more for. What I love most is how something meant for the bathroom finds new life in the garden. It's a reminder that we too can adapt and find usefulness in unexpected seasons of our lives. Just as that cap becomes more than what it was designed to be, so do we when we embrace creativity and refuse to see limits. Have you ever noticed how a bright bloom across the yard seems to draw the eye instantly, even before you catch the scent of a rose or the shape of a tulip? Animals notice the same thing. Birds, deer, even curious rabbits are guided by color and movement long before they realize what they're nibbling. This is where a humble bunch of silk flowers from Dollar Tree can become your secret weapon. Instead of fading away in a vase indoors, these bright artificial blossoms can guard your garden with a quiet trickery. The idea works like a magician's sleight of hand. By placing silk flowers in bold shades of yellow, red, or orange around your beds, you redirect attention away from your tender vegetables or ripening fruits. A hungry rabbit might investigate a patch of fake blooms, first losing interest before it finds your lettuce row. Birds, too, are often fooled by the shimmer of false petals, keeping their beaks off your seedlings long enough for them to gain strength. Even deer, whose wandering appetites can strip a garden overnight, pause to check these decoys, giving you precious time to protect your real crops. A friend of mine living on the edge of a wooded lot struggled for years with deer stealing her tomatoes. She spent on sprays and fencing, but nothing held for long. One summer, almost as a joke, she planted clusters of artificial sunflowers among her vegetables. To her surprise, the deer began stopping at the silk display, distracted just long enough for her real plants to remain untouched. By season's end, she harvested more tomatoes than she had in years. The beauty of this method is its dual nature. Not only do the silk flowers keep pests at bay, but they also brighten your garden beds through the entire season. They never wilt, never droop, and never need watering. For those of us who enjoy the look of flowers but prefer to save our energy for vegetables or herbs, this is a charming way to have both beauty and function. And just like us, these blooms prove that longevity and purpose don't fade with time. They simply take on new meaning. Think back to a childhood memory of building forts, how we drape blankets over chairs and crawl inside safe from the world outside. That sense of protection is exactly what a simple clear bowl from Dollar Tree can give to a young seedling. When you invert a lightweight plastic bowl over tender plants, it becomes a miniature dome, shielding them from the chaos of nature while letting the light pour through like stained glass in a chapel. This method is especially useful in those in-between days when weather can't make up its mind. A sudden cold snap, a downpour, or even a gusty storm can undo weeks of careful nurturing. But under the bowl, your seedlings sit in a gentle pocket of warmth, moisture, and calm. I recall a neighbor who tried this trick with her pepper seedlings. One night, a fierce spring storm blew through, flattening nearly everything in her yard. Yet the peppers under their makeshift domes stood tall and unscathed, ready to keep growing while the rest of the garden recovered. To make this even more effective, you can poke tiny holes in the top of the bowl with a heated nail or screwdriver. This creates just enough ventilation to prevent mold while still keeping the harshest elements out. Smaller bowls are perfect for herbs and lettuces, while larger salad bowls can shelter young tomato plants. And because they're so light, it's easy to lift them when you need to water, then replace them without bending or fussing too much. For under a few dollars, you've created a protection system that rivals expensive gardening domes sold in catalogs. Best of all, they're reusable. Stack them in a corner of your shed, and they'll be ready whenever the weather forecast turns grim. Every time I see those clear domes lined up across a bed, I think of lanterns glowing quietly in the night, each one guarding a little life inside. It's a gentle reminder that small acts of care can create shelters of strength for our plants and for ourselves. If you've spent years in the garden, you know how demanding soil can be. It dries out too quickly, sprouts weeds faster than you can pull them, and sometimes invites pests right to your plant stems. But what if the solution wasn't another bag of mulch or chemical spray, but a $1 kneeling pad from Dollar Tree? Those spongy foam rectangles, usually meant to cushion our knees, can be cut into clever shapes that act as soil armor. The idea is both simple and ingenious. Cut the foam into rings or strips, then place them around the base of your plants. Instantly, you've created a barrier that keeps sunlight off the soil, discouraging weed seeds from sprouting. With fewer weeds stealing nutrients and water, your vegetables and flowers gain the advantage. At the same time, the foam acts like a blanket, slowing down evaporation and keeping moisture where roots need it most. That means less watering for you and more consistent growth for your plants. There's another surprising bonus. Slugs and snails dislike crawling across the uneven, spongy texture. By laying these pads around tender stems, you create a natural deterrent without a single pellet of pesticide. I remember an older gentleman from my community garden who had battled slugs for years. The season he switched to foam collars, he laughed, saying it was the first time he'd seen his lettuce survive untouched. Unlike cardboard or biodegradable mulches that break down quickly, these pads hold up year after year. At the end of the season, you can rinse them off, stack them neatly, and use them again. One pad cut into sections can cover an entire row, stretching that single dollar further than you'd expect. It's remarkable how something designed to ease our joints can ease our gardening chores too. And perhaps that's the real charm, finding ways to let one simple tool serve both body and earth. Just as we learn to adapt and reuse our strength wisely with age, so too can ordinary items be reshaped to protect what matters most in the garden. We've all watched a summer storm roll in first, The sky darkens, then the wind picks up, and before you can gather your thoughts, the rain falls in sheets. For gardeners, that kind of downpour isn't just inconvenient. It can flatten seedlings, wash away nutrients, and leave soil compacted like hard clay. But there's a way to soften the blow, and it begins in the bath aisle at Dollar Tree. A plastic shower curtain stretched across a few stakes becomes a rain shield that calms the storm before it reaches your plants. The beauty of this method lies in its simplicity. By cutting the curtain into panels, you can cover entire beds or just a row of delicate crops. Angled slightly, the plastic deflects excess water away from your plants, allowing just enough moisture to filter through without drowning them. I once visited a friend's garden after a week of heavy rain. Her lettuce protected under a curtain canopy looked as fresh as if it hadn't seen a storm at all, while her neighbor's unprotected patch lay flattened and muddy. It was proof that a single dollar purchase can mean the difference between thriving plants and replanting frustration. When skies clear, the curtain can be folded, rolled, and stored without fuss. Unlike costly garden fabrics that tear after a season, these lightweight sheets often last several years with gentle handling. For those of us who prefer to work smarter rather than harder, this hack saves energy as well as crops. There's something poetic in seeing a humble shower curtain repurposed as a protector of life. It reminds us that defense doesn't always require strength or expense. Sometimes it comes from flexibility. Just as we learn with age to bend without breaking these thin sheets, bend the storm's force and redirect it, leaving our gardens upright and resilient. When you hear the word hula hoop, you probably think of children laughing in a driveway, spinning the bright circles around their waists. But in the garden, those same hoops take on a far more practical purpose. With a few simple cuts, they transform into arches that can support protective covers, creating tunnels that guard your crops like a row of gentle shelters. And the best part, you'll spend only a few dollars to build what looks like professional equipment. Here's how it works. Cut a hoop in half, then press each end into the soil so it forms a curved frame over your plants. Repeat this along the row, and soon you'll have a series of arches. Drape lightweight fabric netting or even tulle over the top, and suddenly your lettuce, strawberries, or peppers are tucked safely beneath their own canopy. Birds can't swoop in, squirrels can't dig, and rabbits will find themselves baffled by the barrier. Yet sunlight, rain, and fresh air still pass through, allowing your plants to thrive undisturbed. I recall a woman from our church garden who used this trick for her strawberries. Every year she'd lose half her crop to robins. But the summer she added hoop tunnels, she harvested bowl after bowl, smiling as she shared jars of homemade jam. The children in the community called her the Strawberry Lady, and it all started with a few toy hoops and some netting. These tunnels are light enough to lift easily when you want to weed or harvest, and they're completely reusable. At season's end, the hoops stack neatly in a shed corner, ready to serve again next year. What looks like a child's toy becomes a fortress for food, a transformation that mirrors our own journeys. We too learn to shift roles as time passes, finding new ways to protect, nurture, and give joy. In the garden, that wisdom shows itself not in fancy tools, but in clever reimagining of the simple and familiar. Sometimes it isn't the shield itself that fails us, but the way we secure it. A storm may not tear through the strongest plastic or fabric, but if the edges aren't fastened, wind sneaks in and lifts the whole cover away. That's where something as small as a binder clip, those little black office supplies most of us have scattered in drawers, becomes an unsung hero of the garden. With a snap, a clip holds fabric to a hoop, plastic sheeting to a stake, or netting to the rim of a container. They create the kind of grip that string and tape can't match, especially after rain or wind has tested every weak spot. I once visited a neighbor after a rough storm. Her garden cover, secured with tape, had blown across the yard. But her husband's bean trellis, fastened with binder clips, stood as firm as ever, the netting still in place. That day, she started raiding the office supply aisle for gardening gear. The beauty of these clips lies in their durability. Unlike string that frays or tape that loses stickiness, binder clips can be used year after year. At season's end, they tuck neatly into a jar until you need them again. They don't rust quickly, they don't break easily, and they cost almost nothing for the peace of mind they bring. For older gardeners, the ease matters too. There's no knot to tie, no sticky mess to fight, just a simple pinch and release. That small act of securing a barrier can make the difference between a garden protected and a garden exposed. It's a quiet reminder that strength often comes from the smallest, most overlooked helpers. Just as in life, sometimes it isn't the grand gestures, but the little supports faithfully in place that hold everything together. The garden by day feels safe, bathed in sunlight and filled with activity. But at night it becomes a different world. Raccoons wander and deer graze silently, and smaller critters dig where they please. Few of us can stand watch until dawn, yet we still want to protect our plants. That's where solar lights from Dollar Tree earn their place, not just as decoration, but as a quiet night watchman. By placing these lights around the edges of your garden, you create a soft glow that unsettles nocturnal visitors. Animals are cautious by nature. When they encounter an unexpected light, they often turn away. A friend of mine, tired of deer munching her beans, lined her garden with a dozen small solar stakes. She called it her lantern fence. Within weeks, she noticed fewer hoof prints in the soil, and her beans thrived without being stripped bare. The effect goes beyond protection. There's a beauty to a garden lit after sunset. Flowers take on new shapes, and the glow paths look more welcoming, and evenings on the porch feel enchanted. It's as if your garden is alive even after dark, both lovely and secure. For the cost of a few dollars, you gain not only peace of mind, but also a little magic. To make the trick last, move the lights around every few days. Animals learn quickly, and shifting the glow keeps them uncertain, reluctant to risk the area. And since solar lights recharge each day, there's no cord to trip over, no bill to pay, and no effort beyond placing them where you need them most. It's a gentle reminder that light itself is a form of protection, not just for plants, but for us. A soft glow in the dark reassures us, keeping fear at bay. In the garden, as in life, sometimes a little light is all that's needed to guard what we hold dear. Few things test a gardener's patience more than watching birds peck away freshly planted seeds, or a pet trample across a bed you've just sown. Seeds represent hope, tiny promises of what's to come, and losing them before they sprout feels especially disheartening. Here's where a simple cooling rack, the kind you'd normally use to rest cookies on, becomes an unexpected guardian. Lay a few racks flat over your planting area, and they create a barrier that keeps paws and beaks away while still allowing sunlight, rain, and air to pass through. The soil breathes, the seeds rest safely, and you can water without lifting a thing. As seedlings push upward, they slip naturally through the spaces until they're strong enough to fend for themselves. At that point, you simply lift the rack and move it to the next spot. One spring, my neighbor tried this with her spinach patch. Birds had stolen nearly every seed in previous years, but under the racks, the seedlings grew untouched. She joked that her kitchen had moved outdoors, with her cookie racks baking a new kind of green. The laughter in her voice was proof that sometimes joy comes from the simplest solutions. What I admire about this method is how it reduces waste. No need to replant multiple times, no frustration over lost effort. It's practical, affordable, and easy to handle, even for those of us who prefer tools that don't demand bending or lifting. At season's end, the racks stack neatly ready for another round. It reminds me that the smallest acts of protection often have the biggest rewards. A thin sheet of metal designed for cooling desserts can mean the difference between bare soil and a thriving bed of greens. And isn't that the story of life too? Guarding the beginnings, whether seedlings or moments of hope, ensures growth has a chance to flourish. Sometimes, protection in the garden needs to be quick. Maybe you've just planted young tomatoes, or perhaps you notice fresh rabbit tracks weaving through the soil. In those urgent moments, a lightweight plastic basket from Dollar Tree can be your best ally. Turn it upside down, place it over the plant, and within seconds you've built a shield that keeps nibbling mouths and curious paws at bay. These baskets with their open ventilation holes are surprisingly effective. Sunlight filters through, rain reaches the soil, and breezes pass easily, yet the tender foliage stays safe inside. I once saw a grandmother use this trick to guard her granddaughter's pumpkin sprouts. Rabbits had destroyed her plants the year before, but that season the little girl's seedlings grew tall under their basket domes, untouched and thriving. When harvest came, they carved jack-o'-lanterns together, grateful for such a simple solution. The versatility of this hack makes it especially valuable. Small baskets are perfect for herbs, while larger storage bins can cover taller peppers or bushy tomatoes. And because they're so light, it's no strain to move them around the yard whenever you need them. Stack them in a corner when the danger has passed, and they'll serve you faithfully again next year. What strikes me most is how something so ordinary can offer such peace of mind. These baskets were never meant for the garden, yet they remind us that protection doesn't have to be complicated or costly. Sometimes it's the quick, clever adjustment that saves the day. In many ways, it mirrors our own lives, how we learn, especially with age, to shield what we love with grace and ingenuity. For just $1, you're not only saving your plants, but also preserving the joy of watching them grow strong. And so, dear friend, we come to the close of our little journey through Dollar Tree's aisles, where everyday objects quietly wait to be transformed. From shower caps to solar lights, each hack proves that protection in the garden doesn't come from how much we spend, but from how we see. With imagination, even the most ordinary item can shield tender leaves, preserve soil, and keep pests at bay. More than that, these hacks remind us that creativity and resilience grow stronger with time, much like the gardeners who use them. I think of neighbors and friends who once struggled with deer rain or weeds until they discovered these simple solutions. Their laughter and pride as they harvested untouched crops spoke louder than any expensive gadget could. These are the stories that stay with us, the joy of finding that even in our golden years, our hands still create beauty, our minds still invent, and our gardens still reward us with life. Perhaps that is the greater lesson here. Age is not a barrier to growth, but a gift. Just as a plastic basket can protect new seedlings, our wisdom protects the dreams we continue to nurture. Each season offers another chance to care for the earth, to learn something new, and to share what we know with others. So, which of these humble tricks brought you the most joy? I invite you to share your thoughts, your own clever discoveries, or even your memories of garden battles won. Together, we build not just thriving gardens, but a community of resourcefulness and hope. Until next time, keep your methods simple, your spending wise, and your heart open to the small miracles that appear when we look closely. Happy gardening, my dear friend. Your garden is not only protected, it is loved.